So we're seeing many claimants stuck in pending. And unfortunately, there's a wide variety of reasons why. The first of which is the one that the EDD has been the most clear about communicating, which is the end of the benefit year. When a UI, PEUC, or Fed Ed claim reaches the end of 12 months worth of benefits, from their claim start date, they're required to file a new claim. If they don't do this, their weeks will be stuck in pending since they're certifying on an old expired claim. Now, the EDD has been communicating about this issue recently, and this is probably the one issue that they have been really trying to increase communication on. Now, unfortunately, they're not communicating about many other issues that are getting claimants stuck in pending. One reason would be when a claimant files a new claim, if they've reached the end of their benefit year, their claim then goes into what's known as a UISD review. And this is when the EDD sends out that claim to a third-party company known as Thomson Reuters. Thomson Reuters performs additional fraud checks to make sure that that claim is a legitimate claim. Now, this can take up to 3 weeks, and the EDD states that this initial time after they certify for the first time can take up to 3 weeks on their website, but we are seeing a longer delay. Now, another reason that we are seeing claimants stuck in pending is unfortunately a reason that's not listed anywhere in the EDD's communication, not found on their website, not found on Twitter. The reason why I'm finding many claimants are getting stuck in pending, if they have claim week ending 4/10 and onward, stuck in pending, the reason that I'm getting reported back to me from my subscribers, when they call into customer service, they're being told that they're under a new quarter review. When they enter a new quarter, they are being stuck in pending. The EDD is not reaching out to them. The EDD is not notifying them of this. And when they call into customer service, the representatives are able to push them from pending to paid, but they're telling them that they must call back in again in July. The representatives are telling them that they must then call back in when they reach the next quarter, because come the next quarter, they will be stuck in review again. Now, the EDD is not reaching out to claimants and is not informing them of this problem. So unfortunately, they do need to call into customer service in order to get this fixed. And what's also unfortunate is that claimants will need to do this again when they reach the start of the next quarter, which will be in July. Now, for many claimants that are not subject to filing a new claim, and they're not under a UISD review, and they're not subject to a new quarter review, many of them have some sort of either a stop payment alert applied to their claim, an internal stop on the computer's system that is holding their payments, or something that the EDD must collect more information from them in order to proceed with paying them. Now, unfortunately, the EDD requires an interview from these claimants. But in the majority of cases, the EDD is not reaching out to these individuals to let them know in advance. So many are seeing their payments pending for weeks or months. When they call into customer service, they unfortunately are not able to get those payments fixed from pending to paid. Instead, they are told that they must await an interview to be scheduled to gather more information. Now, as claimants are waiting for their interviews to be scheduled, unfortunately, there is no set time frame for these. So what I'm seeing is that many of my subscribers are informing me that their interview wait times are ranging between 6 weeks and 10 weeks before they can even speak to the EDD interviewer on the phone. So unfortunately, while the EDD is required to collect this additional information from them, to conduct an interview, these interviews aren't taking place in a reasonable amount of time. And there's nothing that they can do to speed up the process. And unfortunately, calling into their assembly member, while the assembly members have been extremely helpful, this has been an area where it seems as though the assembly members can't make it occur any faster. So unfortunately, these wait times for these interviews where someone's claim is within the benefit year, they are in good standing with their documentation. They have sent over ID verification, income verification, everything that is needed. But these interview wait times in an excess of 6 to 10 weeks are an unreasonable amount of time for them to wait in order to have these interviews conducted. Now, the EDD did address interviews in their Twitter account recently. And what they stated was that if you received an interview scheduled, but you did not receive a call, then we may have found that you were eligible without the need of an interview. They said something similar to that. It wasn't exactly word for word, but in general, they were letting claimants know that we might schedule you an interview and we might not call you. Don't be alarmed because you might still be okay. Now, this tweet is problematic because it doesn't directly provide information that's helpful to the claimant to know what to anticipate. They're told that they will be scheduled an interview. That interview is scheduled. The claimant may make every possible thing needed. The claimant may then clear their schedule, be available for the interview. But if the EDD cancels it, they're not going to tell you exactly why. This tweet was vague and it was problematic, unfortunately. So some may find a little bit of confidence in knowing that their interview was canceled based on this tweet. But unfortunately, it doesn't provide enough information for them to feel secure. And so, what most claimants then need to do following a canceled interview is they will want to call in to customer service because if the EDD does, in fact, need to interview them, and their interview was canceled by an error or a glitch or some sort of action is needed on their part, they want to make sure that they are available to provide that interview. And of course, get their payments pushed from pending to paid. So for these claimants that had interviews canceled, they now must suffer the EDD phone lines trying to call in once again. So that tweet is very problematic. And I really do wish that the EDD would, number one, provide an actual follow-up email, text, letter, any form of direct communication with the claimant that their interview was canceled and that they are in fact approved or that they are awaiting another interview. But unfortunately, they're not seeing those communications come through. And all that we have is a vague tweet that some claimants see and some may never see. Now, one problem that we're seeing with claimants who had to file a new claim when they reach the end of their benefit year is that many claimants on UI, PUC, or Fed Ed reach the end of their benefit year. They filed a new claim. That new claim was processed and awarded. They then have been able to continue down that road of pursuing that new claim. But last week, what we saw was many claimants who had already filed for a new claim received an email or a text from EDD stating that they must file for a new claim again after they had already filed. And now it's unclear if this is a blanket statement, email, and text message that the EDD sent out to everyone whose benefit year expired without seeing if they did in fact file a new claim, or if they do actually have to file a second new claim a month or 2 months after they just refiled. Now, customers who call in, claimants who call into customer service are unfortunately replying mixed feedback to my channel on this. Some are calling into customer service and are being told that yes, they must file a second new claim even after their new claim, which they filed a month ago, was already processed and awarded, while others are being told that they are all set. So this is another issue that we saw pop up with the EDD this last week, and it's something that is still a gray area. Now, I tried to reach out to the EDD to get answers on this question as well as several others. With this question specifically, it took me about 2 weeks of pushing to try to get any sort of an answer in writing. First, with this question and with many others, first what I received was a phone call, and I asked for an email address so I could get my answer in writing or schedule perhaps a Zoom call. They followed up via email and let me know that the earliest they could talk to me would be the following week. Now, the following week came and I didn't hear back, so I followed up and they told me that this also was a busy week and to wait into the next week. At that point in time, I asked for a written response, and if a written response to any part of the questions was possible. It took me several more days before I got an answer, and the answer, unfortunately, was, we don't know what's going on with these issues. We haven't heard reports of this. And the responses were unfortunately not helpful in 2 ways. Number one, that they don't know the information that their customer service reps are providing to these claimants when they call in, because there were several questions that claimants called in about repeatedly, such as the new quarter review or other issues. And the reps are giving consistent replies, but the media department is not providing any sort of answers with regards to those questions. And they did claim that they didn't know what the problem was there and that they hadn't heard any specific accounts that had that problem. They also reported this with the file a new claim issue, where a duplicate new claim was requested. They claimed that they did not know that this was an issue or what it pertained to, and they didn't give me any sort of an answer. So unfortunately, we don't have any clear answers on those problems, but those are some new problems that are popping up this week. The Department of Labor issued guidance about 2 weeks ago, and I did a video on this. They issued detailed guidance, and that provides some insight as to why the EDD has not yet released the overpayment waiver, because they did state that they would be including this as an option. And it's an optional provision of the stimulus bill. The states don't have to provide it, but EDD did state back in the winter that they would provide this. Now, the Department of Labor issued this guidance several weeks ago, and it laid out several different options that states could apply, including a blanket waiver and several other provisions. So the EDD may be delayed in delivering information on the overpayment waiver because they're awaiting that guidance from the Department of Labor. But while they're awaiting that guidance, or after they've received that guidance, because it was either 2 or 3 weeks ago, if a YouTuber can do a report on it, they have time to issue some sort of a notice that can state, we've received guidance from the Department of Labor, we are working on this, and an estimation of the delivery date. But instead, unfortunately, we're seeing them use their efforts in other ways that aren't necessarily helpful. The benefit year end communication has been hammered home. They have done plenty with that. So it's time for them, unfortunately, to move on and communicate some of these other questions that people are really trying to get answers to, or to communicate it in a way that is clear, because with the benefit year end emails, those are going out to people who have already reapplied, and it's causing even more confusion, unfortunately. So yesterday's press release is problematic because they released information without having hard details. They released, here's something that we are working towards, which unfortunately many claimants, I fear, will interpret as a change and may cause them to not reapply due to a misinterpretation of that news of an upcoming change. So that's one thing that I'm fearful of, first off, is that claimants are going to see that. And it wasn't exactly clear in its wording. To someone like me that can pick things apart like that, that knows the EDD inside and out, I can decipher they're still working on this. But unfortunately, there's a wide variety of people who are accessing this information, who will hear it in the media, et cetera, who might misinterpret what that means, and they might not file a new claim. And once again, it's the mixed messages issue, where the EDD is stating one thing in one place, such as the benefit year end page, their videos, et cetera, saying you must file a new claim, which has been made very clear. But then they release a press release saying, but in the future, these people won't need to, but they don't exactly say when. So I'm worried about that. And additionally, the way that it will be implemented seemed a bit unclear. Now, while alleviating any of the workload that the EDD faces is beneficial, because that frees up their time to fix some of these other issues, such as the pending payments, the interviews, et cetera. What we do need to see is we need to see immediate attention given towards paying these pending claimants that have been stuck in pending for months, some of them stuck since December, some of them suffering life-altering consequences based on having these payments withheld. So while them making those changes is beneficial, it also comes at an odd time for them to announce a potential change without clear information on it, what to expect, and also without addressing all of these other issues that people are having. that are very urgent, the pending payments, the questions regarding unclear information being released, the programs that haven't been started yet, such as MEUC Boost and overpayment waiver. Um, so while it's understandable that they have so much work to handle, I believe it was stated as 11 million work items in the May revision of the budget, referenced that there were 11 million work items to do. It's understandable that they must do it piece by piece, but I'm worried that they're not selecting careful language to communicate clearly, careful methods to communicate clearly, and that they're not addressing this group of individuals that seem to be forgotten, that are stuck in pending, that aren't receiving direct communication on why or how to fix it, and who can't seem to get any help through any of their efforts. So the press release stated, in order to see if you are required to file a new claim, click File a New Claim and start the process and see if it works. Unfortunately, the EDD system is riddled with glitches and things that haven't been updated during the entire course of the pandemic. So unfortunately, relying on a system that is already untrustworthy and broken to tell you if you're required to file for a new claim is extremely problematic. I would have a hard time as a claimant trusting that that system rejecting my claim means that I have done all the action needed. Now, they do also link to a calculator to see if you qualify and some other resources. But because these programs are so complicated, having individuals rely on these self-service methods is not something that is extremely helpful to claimants receiving all the benefits that they are owed. Now, the EDD has had a huge push recently with creating self-service help modules on their frequently asked questions page, creating new benefit your end pages, creating a chat bot, creating self-service help options has been a big push for the EDD recently. The problem with that is that the majority of the issues that claimants are having require the help of a representative in order to get them pushed from pending to paid. These are higher level problems that the EDD is requiring them to conduct an interview or get something cleared by a representative. Now, a self-help area of a website is not going to be able to help them to do that. So while it is important for them to update their systems, their technology, their resources, including self-help across the board, what I'm disappointed at is I'm not seeing the same sort of efforts applied to the call center, the direct communication with claimants regarding their specific issues, and in reasonable amounts of time for getting these issues solved.